It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to the show. Another weekend, another program. We're so excited and we're so thankful that you are spending some time with us. We are Jill on Money, and we is me, Jill Schlesinger, and he, Mark Talercio, the best executive producer in the world. We are broadcasting live from the Capital One Bank Studios in New York. And thank you for all the great messaging and contact with us. Remember, if you have some financial issue that's popping up for you, just shoot us a note. You can email us. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Isn't that easy? You can also go to our website, JillOnMoney.com. Click on the Contact Us button, and you'll get on the air. So we'd like to start the show with a caller, and it is Brad, who is on the line from Florida. I believe you're calling from the west coast of Florida. Is that right, Brad?
Yes, that's right.
So as I sit here in New York with its cold and some flurries, you are enjoying what? Tell me what's going on right there.
It's currently, about, I suppose, 70 degrees?
Oh, nice. Gosh, that's nice. All right. What can I do for you, sir?
Well, I feel like we're in pretty good shape here, except I'm retired now, or both my wife and I are. We're 65. And we have, in the past, we had a taxable account that we were, trying to we were concerned about taxes, if you will. Mm-hmm. Now that we're retired, I'm trying to generate as much income as I can from that taxable account.
Okay. So, what is the source? What's the source of your income right now? Are you guys are you receiving any pensions?
No.
Okay. And social?
My wife is. We currently have an income stream.
Okay.
And it consists of my wife is on Social Security. Mm-hmm. I am not. I haven't taken it yet. And my wife gets also has a teacher's retirement.
Okay.
And then we have like 8 CDs generating interest income.
Okay.
And then from our taxable accounts, we had dividends and capital gains. Mm-hmm. And then we're fortunate we have a little bit of farm income. And then we also have a little bit of oil royalty.
No, so, I'll tell you what, I'm signing up for this plan. How much money are you bringing in through that? And I presume when you say CDs, dividends, and capital gains, that you are pulling that money out and spending it? In other words, I need to know how much money you really need, all told.
Okay, so to make it easier, last year, with those revenue streams, we brought in $115,000.
And that floated your lifestyle? Was that good?
Yeah. It seems to, yeah.
Okay. Good. I love that your wife is in the background because she's like, Dad, let me tell you. She's like, what do you mean? No income. I've got Social Security. I got teacher's retirement. So thank you for your wife. And I'm giving her a big thumbs up. Okay. So what we're really looking at here, what I would like to know is your wife's, I want to know what the fixed amounts that we're getting. So the Social Security and the teacher's retirement and the farm income. How and a farm and the other what did you say? Oil?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Okay, so tell me what the Social Security, teacher's retirement, farm income, and oil. I want to know what those 4 components add up to.
Okay.
Okay.
I love you.
half a year on that. So
Half a year on that. Perfect. Okay. Thank you for the voice of reason there, madam.
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's the better half.
That's-
Go ahead and add those up, Sean.
I know
You got to double that.
Yeah. Okay.
They're all small amounts, Jill. I mean, they're not big money.
Okay.
But we've always lived below our means.
Yep.
So we live just fine. We do everything we want to do, but we don't, need to spend $1 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if we thought about this, let me round up. Let's say you need 120 grand a year, right? 10 grand a month. Half of it is coming in with Social Security, teachers' retirement, the farm income, and the oil. And that's kind of a good place for us to start. Now, let me back up from there. How much money do you have invested overall? So what's in the taxable account? What's in the retirement account?
Okay, in the taxable account is I'm going to round up just a hair is $400,000,
Okay.
and in the retirement accounts, it's kind of okay. Let me just in the retirement accounts, there's like $2,175,000.
Okay. That's
and
great.
That's both our IRAs, and we have small. We each have a small Roth IRA.
Okay. And when you said the 8 CDs, what is that included in any of those numbers?
No.
So you've got the 400 in the taxable. How much money in CDs?
$1,420,000.
There is nothing you can do to screw this up. It's amazing. Not even I could screw this up. You've been such a good saving family. Really, you're amazing. The two of you. You know what? I don't know what Brad. I'm going to say that your wife is amazing because it sounds like she really is the brains of the operation. So I just
you do have that correct.
Yeah, I figured as much. It would literally be almost impossible for you to screw this up. Seriously, you have like $3 million, and you're asking me, well, what's an efficient way to generate 60 grand a year from that? So you cannot go wrong here. You cannot go wrong. Okay? Unless you do something totally insane, like, what we're going to do? We're going to invest all of this, $3 million in, bet it on, black 36. That's how you do something dumb. But you're not going to do that. So here's the question that I have for you. Who's managing all this money? You guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that, are you building the CDs as a ladder that oh, you know what? Mark's telling me I got to go to a break. So hang on one second. We're going to go pay some bills. I'm coming right back to you. I want to find out really what's the nut of the question here, because right now, I love what you've done. You basically have CDs that is essentially about almost, let's say, about half the money, and it's safe and it's consistent and you're going to get all the money you need. And frankly, as soon as Brad starts to claim Social Security, it's going to even be better. So we're going to hang on for 1 second. We're going to go pay some bills. And when we come back, we're going to find out really what's the question here and what we need to do. Everyone who's listening, the most important piece of this is you hear how I'm asking these questions, which is, what do you need, right? What do you got? And then we talk about how to invest, because your job as an investor is to solve that equation, nothing else. You don't have to pick the best investment. You want to get where you need to go with the least amount of risk possible. You are listening to Jill on Money. And when we return, we're going to count all of Brad and his wife's money and figure out where to go next. It's Jill on Money. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, she's all over the place. Go to JillOnMoney.com to find it all. Now back to the show with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. And before we went to the break, we were talking to Brad and his very wise wife about their retirement income. And we started the conversation by just sort of understanding what are the facts. They're 65 years old and they're retired, and they get about half of their needed income for retirement from these really great and consistent forms of income. Social Security for his wife, her retirement, some farm income, some oil income. I mean, I know the farm income and the oil income can change, but that's pretty consistent. They got about $3 million saved, which is tremendous, fantastic. And so, Brad, here is my question to you. What prompted you to actually give us a holler, or Brad's wife, whose name will go undisclosed right now. We don't want to have everybody know who you are. What prompted the question here?
Well, I've been a avid listener. I started out as a follower with Bob Brinker, and you've kind of I enjoy your podcast, and so I just I don't know I spend on listening to the radio and been studying this. I've read a lot, and like I say, we kind of manage things ourselves, and now that I'm retired, before when I was working, my wife, you're correct, did manage everything. She's the one that should take credit for this. I mean, she set this up wonderfully, and now that I have time, I'm kind of checking in. I'm pursuing this a little further. And
let me just say that now that she's done a great job, we're going to see if you can screw it up.
Yeah. That's right. Now I've got my hands.
So what is it that you're seeking in terms of? I mean, like right now, it just does not seem like there's any issue, right? You've got a good chunk of money that's safe. What else?
Yeah. Well, I guess the crux of the call to you, Jill, is my or our taxable account. Right now, we have $200,000 in the total stock market index, and we have $200,000 in Wellington.
Okay.
And as I look back from last year, simply said, the Wellington outproduced the index by a lot. I'm talking about income now.
Right. Well, right, because the index is not set up to create the income, because the index is only stocks, and Vanguard Wellington is I don't know, it's like 65-35-ish about, right? So it's like so essentially it's almost always going to create the income, but what I'm not so sure about in general is that, whether you even need to have so much risk, but that's a totally different question. I don't think you're going to need, so I'm going to jump to this because I don't want to spend all your whole morning when you should be out in the sun enjoying yourselves. I like the Wellington Fund. I'm going to tell you that right now. It is a solid fund. And in my estimation, as you sort of describe this, just in terms of the taxable account, I'm not even so sure you need to do much with it, except that I like the idea that the taxable stock market index is there, it grows. The Wellington is there and it grows. But I don't know if I'd want to I presume there's a big tax hit in moving money from the index to Wellington. So what I would try to do is not to reinvest anything that comes in from the stock market index, to put that cash, and you can use it and invest it in Wellington or spend the cash. But I don't think you need to worry that much about generating so much income. I don't think I would just take this big, huge tax hit to move things over. In the retirement account, what are you using? Similar products, Vanguard stuff?
Yeah, we're all Vanguard.
Yeah, we're 60-40. We're 60 in total stock market. And 40 total bond market.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
real simple.
It's very easy. I don't even think, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could, and you wanted to pull the risk back a little bit, I might change. If you want to, kind of tinker with the allocation, I would do it in the retirement account so you don't pay any taxes. I'm just worried that, like, the total stock market index, I get that it's not going to produce like Wellington. Of course, the capital appreciation is pretty big. I do think that if you want to pull your risk levels back, to do it in the retirement account sure does make some sense. I just don't feel like you need to necessarily pay Uncle Sam to get the allocation a little bit more in line. And I would not worry, because you have so much money in those CDs. And frankly, I presume you're not going to claim until you're 70. Is that right? For social?
We go around with that, Jill.
Okay.
And here's the real, now this, if you could answer this question, you'd be the hero of the day, because we've looked it up and tried to figure out what the truth is here. Here's the thing. I started taking mine, and of course mine is smaller than Brad's. His will be pretty substantial.
Right.
So, but he was looking at 66 and a half. That's full retirement for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then also studying what if he did go out to 70. And here's now this is the $1 million question in my mind.
Okay.
Say, all right, I'm on Social Security, and I got on Medicare this month, which is a delight and a big raise for me, not paying my health insurance.
Nice.
But say something happens to Brad before he starts claiming.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm taking mine, but what if something did happen to him and he was taking, I would drop mine and take his
Right.
Social Security.
Right.
Okay, but if he has never drawn and something happens to him, is that money in thin air with the federal government, or do I get to?
No, you get to claim. You get the widow's benefit. I think even if he hasn't claimed at the age he would have been able to.
Okay.
So I don't think
All
that's the issue. I think what's interesting is I thought you were going to say the $1 million question was something slightly different. And here's your slightly different question. If you tell me when you're going to die, I'll tell you when to claim.
Yeah,
All right, just kidding you.
True.
Now, I also will say this. You have so much money. You have so much money. You are in such great shape that if it would make you feel better not to pull the corpus of this estate out, in other words, not spending a lot of the money, if you want, I don't think claiming at 66 and a half is, I mean, like mathematically, you're better off claiming at 70, presume you live long, right? You know that like, if I think it's like 82 and a half is your break even. But let's say that you just want the income. So you claim at 66 and a half, big deal. You claim it's a slightly lower amount. Maybe you could have gotten 8% more. It's almost academic. It's like a fun exercise. You have so much savings. You've done such a fabulous job. I'm going to turn this around and say, would it make you feel better to have that income stream sooner? Because in looking at your retirement, you've done such a good job. You have won the opportunity to make a more emotional decision. And I want, if you say, I just want to like get it done. I want to have my stream of income. I don't want to pull, I don't know if you have lots of kids or what, or you're very philanthropic, whatever it is. You don't want to just pull money. You just want to get that stream of income started, then turn it on at 66 and a half. That is the prize for being such awesome savers. That is essentially it. You have opportunity, and you can make the mathematically inferior decision, which we may or may not be so, right? Because we don't know when anyone's going to die, but let's say statistically. And I would not really worry about that. I would not take a tax hit to reallocate in a taxable account. I would not make myself crazy about taking too much risk. If anything, instead of being 60-40, I would probably be more like 50-50 or flip it, be 60% in safe stuff, 40% in stocks. And the reality is, in terms of claiming, I probably just, human nature is give me the money now. I know don't write in, everybody listening. This is a very specific case. In the case of Brad and his very wise wife, the Oracle, I'm going to call her, that they have a choice, and I get it. So I think that you're amazing. Gold star, fantastic. 5 gold stars. Great rating on Rotten Tomatoes, too. All right. You're listening to Jill on Money. You want a question like Brad's to be on your plate? Well, maybe you don't have $3 million. Maybe you got $3. Whatever it is, we want to hear from you. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We will be right back.
(401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
The Ides of March. Mid-March. You got your taxes done yet? Have you? Hey, Mark, make sure that we put our income tax boot camp. We'll put the 2 tax posts in this note, in the show notes. The 2 different ones that we've done. That way we can give people lots of help because they are all freaking out. Don't get freaked out about your tax situation either. Like you'll make the adjustment. It'll be okay. Everyone's going a little bit nuts right now. I really don't think it's not going to be all these reports that like such big differences, and it's a great opportunity to reacquaint yourself with the United States tax code, because I know that you haven't done that. It is Jill on Money. This is where we answer your financial questions. It's just a couple of weeks to go before Mark and I can try to finally get through all of our. We basically wanted to use the first quarter to catch up on our emails. Now, Mark, the goal is to get through hopefully all of February by the end of March, and then we'll just have March to catch up on. And then we're going to have to just keep running around like a squirrel. No, is that not a squirrel? The hamster on the hamsters are always kind of grossed me out, but if you had one, sorry about that. Okay. Here is a question. If you want to reach us, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Paul writes, I am 67. I'm retired. I live comfortably on my pension and Social Security. Way to go. I've got $1.5 million in my IRA. I don't anticipate touching it until my required minimum distribution comes around at 70.5. I've got $200,000 in cash for immediate needs that might come up. My taxable income is around $65,000. I have another, say, $12,000 that I could claim that would keep me within the 12% tax bracket. Is it a good idea to withdraw from my IRA the amount up to the top of the bracket so I can get funds out at the lower rate? I don't need the cash and could either spend it or reinvest it in my... Yeah, I like that idea. I like that idea. You like it, Mark? You want it? Do it. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If you just have one, I wonder if it's worth it for you to convert it into a Roth IRA. I would try to look at that as an option. I don't know if you have lots of different IRAs, but a partial, just a little bit at a time, putting that into a Roth IRA, that's another idea for you. Give that a shot. Might be, because Roth IRA, you don't have to take a required minimum distribution. David writes, last year my dad died and left me and my two siblings about $40,000 each in a transfer on death account and $150,000 in another account. We decided to stay with the same advisor our dad used at blank. Notice how I said blank because I don't want to trash him yet. For various reasons, I want to take this money. I want to put it somewhere else. I don't know the best way to go about leaving the advisor. I like the concept of paying a percentage of the account value. I don't like the concept of paying a percentage of the account value for very little advice. Fee-only advisors seem to be a more fair situation to me. Besides the previously mentioned accounts, I've got about $1 million in my 401k at work, a couple of rental properties to consider. I'm 51, so hopefully retirement not too far away. How can I find an advisor I can feel comfortable with? Dave, have I got an answer for you? You're going to go to NAPFA, National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, NAPFA, NAPFA.org. And you're going to pop your zip code in there, and you're going to see if you come up with people who will charge you by the hour. Conversely, something else you might want to think about. Vanguard has got a robo-advisor, an online advisor, and also has some financial advice. You may not need it. You may be that you're in a good situation. But if you just want to pay sort of an hourly, if you want to pay for hourly advice, you've got to find someone who actually does that for a living. So that's my suggestion. And if you want to follow up with us and tell us where you are writing from, we might know someone in the actual area that can help you out. Okay. Okay. Next up, this is from Al. Thank you for your article about the wage gap. It appeared in the Tampa Bay Times. Any reasonable person reading your article should understand the half dozen or more reasons you explain, all justifiable for men generally making more money than women. It is refreshing to know there is at least one journalist out there who understands the situation. Thanks again. It's so hard. It's such a hard issue, and it feels very unfair if you're the one who's really been clocked by it. Here's a question about a backdoor Roth. My salary is $135,000. I've maxed out my 401k. Can I contribute to an IRA or a Roth IRA? Let me just look that up. Let me just see where is the Roth IRA contribution? Okay, first of all, unfortunately, I don't know whether you're married or single. If you are single, you make too much money to do an actual Roth. So if you're married, you might be able to do it. Maybe. It would really depend on some of your deductions. But here's how a backdoor Roth works. you put money into a non-deductible traditional IRA and then immediately convert it to a Roth IRA. So you're not taking a tax deduction, but you can convert it. There are some very thorny rules about this. You've got to be careful. So I want to say that if you have any other IRA accounts, that you must take that into consideration. Okay? Oh, my God. I just have to do this one. Patricia just got divorced after 33 years. Come on. She was a stay-at-home mom. She got $600,000 in cash, $42,000 a year in alimony. Any suggestions as to what to do with the cash? I have no idea where to start. Should I buy or rent? I live in South Florida. You know what you need? You don't need advice from me. You need a financial advisor. That's what you need. And you need someone who can help plan that for you, incorporate your alimony, which I'm sure is only going to be limited to a certain period of time. And I wouldn't go and buy anything or do anything right this second. I think that I would really be careful in what your next steps are. Please go seek the advice of a financial planner. You can go to the CFP website, letsmakeaplan.org. You can go to the NAPFA, National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, napfa.org. Those will be hopefully fiduciaries who will help you out. And I would start with NAPFA. I think that might be your best bet. Oh, Mark. 33 years. I hope she wanted out and she was just waiting for the kids or something. And it wasn't just like me, somebody just saying, waking up one morning, saying, well, I want to find myself. Okay. It's a long road, my friends. Find yourself the best way you can. Sometimes it's easier with a spouse you know. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com, and our website is coincidentally called Jill on Money. Isn't that amazing? Quelle coincidence. Anyway, if you go onto the website, you will find all sorts of cool content. You can read the articles that I write. You can listen to past shows. You can also subscribe to our sister podcast. Apple, Stitcher, radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcast. Hey, a radio listener wrote in and told me they heard a spot that we did, which was about podcasts. I think that was because the radio stations just wanted people to understand what a podcast is, because every radio station is now actually in the podcast business. But I think I just described it as, hey, it's like a radio show you can listen to whenever you want. That's all it is. Don't be deterred by the word podcast. It should not be scary. It's very easy to understand. So it's kind of cool. You can go to any of your apps that you use, but I know that a lot of people like to use the Apple. If you use an iOS phone, you can literally just use the Apple app, the App Store. There's also a podcast actual app. It's a little purple thing. It looks like it has little sound waves coming out of a human being. But there are other ones. You can listen on Instacast or Podcast or SoundCloud or Stitcher. Or what's the one that I use? I use the one that's called Casts, I think it's called. Pocket Cast or Cast. I don't know what they go by now, but I like it. You have to pay for it. Anyway, what happens is you then go to type in what your favorite podcast is. For you, it'll be Jill on Money. And then you subscribe to it. And then you can hear us whenever you want. You can listen to it when you're taking a walk with the dogs. I do a lot of podcast listening with my dogs, and they are very well informed as a result. Okay, let's take some questions here. This is from Phyllis, 59 years old, self-employed as a chiropractor, and she nets about $100,000 a year after expenses. That's awesome. Question is, should I use some of the cash on hand to pay off my credit line at the bank and my car lease? Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm presuming that the credit line is probably a cheap interest rate, but why not? I wouldn't mind just having that cleaned up. The car lease, you can pay especially if you're going to end up keeping the car, it's not a terrible thing to do. But it'll clean up your balance sheet a little bit and maybe will save some money on interest. But what you really need to make sure is that the cash on hand, that money that you have remaining, which is, it'll be like $35,000-ish, that, you keep enough in there so that if there's a bad month or two in the practice, that you don't have to actually dip into any other savings. And what else are you doing with that money? Are you putting money away into retirement? Do you have a SEP or something? I'd like to know if you need some help with a retirement account, that would be a great thing to follow up with. So let us know, and good luck to you. Robert writes, he's 46, and he filed for Social Security disability. I know it's not a lot of money. I have $55,000 in a 401k from my former employer. I worked there for 15 years. With all the surgeries I've had over the last several years, it was the best decision to apply for permanent disability. Question: what am I able to do with the money so I don't get crushed on taxes? I am married and my wife is working full-time. Our kids are older and work on their own. I may need some of the money until disability is improved. I think that you can take money out without a penalty if it's for medical expenses. Let us look at the IRS rules. IRS rules 401k early withdrawal. Let's do that. That's how I do these things. It's very easy. There are exceptions. This is the most important thing. There are exceptions to that 10% penalty that would normally apply to you. Okay? And the exemptions are very important to pay attention to. They are usually called hardship withdrawals. And they're usually due to what's called an immediate and heavy financial need and limited to the amount necessary to satisfy that need. So I think that you probably want to talk to this because you're automatically to have that immediate and heavy financial need if the medical care expenses, if it's for medical care expenses for the employee spouse, dependents, or beneficiary. So that, to me, looks like you can probably get that money out and not have it subject to that 10% penalty. So what I would do is this. I would talk to your employer and the person who holds the plan and discuss that hardship distribution. And, the theory here is that you want to avoid the 10%, but you're going to have to pay the tax due. So talk to them, see what you got, see if you can make that work, and that should help you out. I'm so sorry. It's such a bummer. Diane wants to know whether she should pay the $70,000 mortgage on her house. She's got $750,000. She had $750,000 that she invested with Merrill Lynch when she retired 3.5 years ago. She wants to know, should she withdraw money to pay off the house now? She lives on Social Security and withdraws $2,000 of retirement savings to live on. No, I wouldn't pay that off. You need your liquidity, girl. And by the way, when she wrote this, the market was in the tank. Now it's come back. I'm kind of guessing she's absolutely fine now. So how about that? No market timing. Keep that liquidity. Nuzzle up to it. It'll keep you warm on a cold retirement evening. You're listening to Jill on Money. When we return, more of your questions. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com, or you can always contact us from the website, jillonmoney.com. And let's see, we've got Mike who's writing that he's wondering about changing the beneficiary on term life insurance policies. And Mike writes, it occurred to me that perhaps we should name our two sons as our primary beneficiaries for our policies instead of naming each other. The reason, we have plenty of assets to comfortably sustain one of us if the other should die. My thinking is that rather than have the policy pay to our estate, which then could become taxable when passed to the boys when the surviving spouse dies, if paid to our sons, that could avoid the potential tax. Well, how much money do you have, man? Because the estate tax only kicks in if you have a boatload of money, like more than 11 million bucks. Otherwise, the money, I mean, you can do that. There's no issue doing it. It's just that there's no tax on insurance proceeds. There's no income tax. And if your estate is not huge, I don't know where you live, but maybe you have an estate tax in your state of residence. But I don't think it's going to matter for tax purposes. But it may be better for the other to actually try to figure out, where to put the money down the line. I don't know. I kind of think you probably should keep it as is. One last one before we finish up this hour. I have money that is with the Bank of America in a savings account, $125,000. I want to use it next year to purchase a vacation home. I've heard dire warnings about the government confiscating our funds. Are you watching too much crazy cable TV, lady? Relax. Will you please? You have FDIC insurance. You are covered. It's fine. And you don't have to worry about no one's coming to get your money. God, people are super gullible sometimes. Don't worry. Okay. This is Jill on Money, and we are broadcasting live from the Capital One Bank studios here in New York. If you've got a financial question, send us an email. Go to the website, JillOnMoney.com, and you can click the Contact Us button while you're there. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's hour number 2. Hour number 2 is being broadcast live from the Policy Genius Studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare insurance. Compare and buy, I should say. Compare and buy insurance. And they got all sorts of stuff on there. You've heard the CEO of that organization was on the show. So Jennifer Fitzgerald, we love her. And the site's cool, so check it out. Policy Genius. Cool. All right. We like to catch up on our emails, and Mark has given me a first quarter deadline to get through January. Was that what our goal was? To get through the backlog? I don't know, but we got a lot of questions. Here we go. Let's do it. Okay, this is from Gary, who's looking to buy long-term health care insurance, but he's only found these hybrid policies. And the hybrid is essentially like a life insurance policy or some sort of an annuity with a long-term care rider. And a lot of those were created because long-term care itself is so expensive. So the thing that I think is important to do is to first say, hey, do you really need long-term care insurance? And remember, not everybody does need it. It's not a given. But I think that what's important is if you do need it, and, who really does need it? Let me just give you that quickie. Usually it's a married couple, right? And that couple has somewhere between, $500,000 to $2 million net worth with the house included. And so I think that what's important there is that that's not so many people. So a lot of people are buying these kinds of insurance policies and you don't need them. But the biggest problem here is that we see that people pay up for them and then they don't need them and then they cost too much, and all of this stuff is rolling into a big pain in the neck study of wasteful dollars and buying products you don't understand. Basically, a whole chapter in my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money. Okay, so here's what you need to know. There are certain providers who are actually in the business of providing long-term care insurance. So if you go, I mean, there's this American Association for Long-Term Care Insurance, which, with a caveat, I should say that it's a lot of this is from the insurance industry itself. So just know that. One of the things that you would need to know is how you can compare all of these and really understand this. I guess that from my perspective, that's best done with a fee-only advisor or even just a plain fiduciary advisor who can help compare all of these. So, there are a number of the companies that have been in the business, out of the business. I think that what you may want to do is just try to just look at whether you need it, how you get help buying it, and how you can compare it. I wouldn't go to one specific company. I would probably be looking at someone who could purchase long-term care on your behalf, who could compare companies. Some of the companies out there, when you look at their ratings, they're in place. Those ratings are in place based on policies that have already been sold, but not all these companies are in the long-term care business anymore. So what you have to really be careful about is that you may be looking at ratings for a company that's actually exited the business. So check it out. Be careful, use an advisor, and compare before you buy anything. And by the way, maybe, just maybe, buying a hybrid product for you, Gary, and your family could work. But it's essential that you get some advice along the way. All right, here's from Donna, 66. She's still working. Her company reorganized over the last year and a half, and her salary decreased by about $15,000 a year. I made a decision that I could deal with that as opposed to trying to start over. Who could blame you, really? When her salary was reduced, she upped withholding exemptions to compensate. Ouch. I'm getting killed on my taxes for 2018. I adjusted my withholding back down again. So I can't stand this, making less money and paying more in taxes, using TurboTax, and my situation isn't complicated enough to go to a professional service, mortgage interest, and little else to itemize. This just seems so wrong. Any suggestions? Well, you might have done it to yourself. I guess the difference is, what would be interesting to me in your situation, Donna, would be to tell me exactly how much money you paid in 2017 and exactly how much money you paid in 2018. And let's compare where you stand. Yes, your $15,000 differential would make a difference, obviously, but I'm wondering if, your overall tax situation isn't quite as bad as you may have indicated. And if that's the case, then maybe it's just that you made the wrong adjustment. It's okay. You figured it out. That's good. As long as you have the money to pay the tax, that's much better. Okay. Kevin writes, he is 30 years old. He's putting 8% pre-tax and 2% into a Roth that his company matches, 75% on the 8%, and then an additional 4%. Wow. He makes $37,000 after 5 years of employment. He's got an actively managed 401k by an outside company. I'm in the category of maximum growth for my age, so I assume higher risk. I have debt of around $20,000. I don't own real estate. My question is, am I on track for my age for a decent retirement at around age 62? At the latest. I don't know. I need more information. But let me just say this. I would not put away so much money into your Roth overall until you pay this $20,000 debt down. I mean, I think you should try to capture the match. I get it. So that's fine. Put your 8% in. But I wouldn't do the extra 2%, and I would kill myself to try to pay this whole thing down. All right. Question. Why do robots have a detrimental effect on employment growth? More so in emerging markets than developing markets. The reason is that they are replacing people. A lot of the U.S. people have already been replaced with those offshored jobs. And now that those jobs could be replaced, one more time over, makes it much worse for the developing for the emerging economies than the developed ones. So robots are going to absolutely make a big dent in jobs in all areas. But I got this great report. Total number of robots shipped to North America, U.S., Canada, and Mexico. This is just under 36,000. That's it. It's up a lot, up by 7%. Big increase in the non-automotive companies using robots. But the robot revolution, again, probably replacing more of those lower wage jobs in emerging economies faster than they do in developed ones. All right, thanks for your question. And if you have a financial question, hop on to JillOnMoney.com, and there you can order the new book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Do you have a financial question? You got to get in touch with us. Easy thing to do. You can go onto the website, JillOnMoney.com. On that website, what will you find? You'll find a Contact Us button. Also, you will find lots of great content. Check out the resource tab, where there's a lot of cool stuff, calculators and connections to websites that we talk about. All right, let's do, okay, let me get to this. This is an interesting question. This is from Ryan. I love the show. Thank you so much for sharing great advice and content every week. I have a question about bond exchange traded funds and whether they are an investment worth having. I have taxable money in the following locations: a savings bank, 2% interest, an online investment platform, two accounts, one fully stocks, the other one 40/60 stock fund. And then another account, brokerage account, individual stocks. My question is whether I need any bond exchange traded fund exposure given cash interest rates currently. I've been looking over the prospectus for bond ETFs that the online advisor uses. I see historic rates of return that float 2 to 6% a year. Given that these returns and the really good return on cash, I'm currently considering having my money either in stocks or cash. I'm struggling to understand the value of having money in a bond ETF, given that the returns are not substantially different than cash. Can you educate me on why I might want to keep more money allocated to bonds? Because, yes, you're right. The low end of the range is 2%, but when interest rates start to rise, they go up. I mean, you could do it. I think that having a bond fund gives you just it will act slightly differently over time than a cash account will. So then you might want to say to yourself, well, is that really necessary? Yeah, I mean, I would still do it. I would still have some money in a bond fund. It's just me. I would. Okay, here is, I love when someone writes about a close friend. Let me start by saying that this is from Russell. Your book just arrived. I can't wait to read it. Thank you, Russell. If you want to buy the book, just go to JillOnMoney.com. Click on the book link and you can buy the book. Okay, here's Russell says, a close friend is about to receive $80,000 tax-free at age 60. Where's a good place to park the money? She no longer has earnings. I'm thinking it can't be put in a Roth IRA. Correct. If you don't earn money, you can't use it Roth. Would prefer to just let it grow. Her household has just over $500,000 in an IRA and a thrift savings plan growing steadily. Okay. So here's the thing. Is there any outstanding debt? That's one question. Now, that debt could be lots of different things. I'm not saying a mortgage debt, but is there any debt that's outstanding? We want to take care of that. Number two, she's 60. So if she's 60 years old, I really want an adequate emergency reserve fund. So, if your household has $500,000 in an IRA and other retirement accounts, my guess is that you spend a good chunk of money. So make sure that we have that emergency reserve fund parked with safe accounts, a savings, a checking, a CD, anything like FDIC safe account, right? Okay, next. Then you might consider, hey, should we invest this money? You could. One way to do it is to take whatever the extra money is, and you could put it into a taxable investment account. And you could make it a really kind of a boring account. Maybe it's 50% stock index fund, 50% bond index fund. If you're the type of people who really know that you're not going to touch the money and you don't need the money, that may argue for taking slightly more risk. But if you don't like risk at all and you really want to dial it back, you can put less money at risk in the stock market. The other thing I also would remind people is that one thing to keep in mind is that, you may want to use that money to pre-fund doing something. Like, do you need to buy a car? Do you need to get something big out of the way that you'd rather do now rather than wait until later? So you can give me a holler back if there are more details to discuss about this. I think that having that emergency reserve fund, especially as you are approaching your very important retirement, this is key. You've got to have enough money that's outside of retirement. Okay, so listen, the only thing is that if your friend is married, even though she doesn't have earned income, maybe she could do a spousal IRA. But that's not going to get rid of a ton of money, right? That's $80,000. But that's one way to defray some of that money into a great tax environment. Okay. Sandy writes, why does Vanguard have my Roth IRA invested in bonds? The position has not increased in value since 2014. Being in non-taxable products seems wrong to me. Well, there's no way that Vanguard first, I don't know who. First of all, who invested the money? Vanguard's managing the money for you? If so, those are taxable bonds that are in a Roth. If you own municipal bonds that are in a Roth, that is a problem. So I would double check and send me more info so that I can help you with that, because I'm not sure I know. So send me the portfolio, and that way we can see what you have and why things are moving or not moving in your case in a way that you would have hoped. This is from Thomas, who's single, 63. He's got $6 million in assets. Woo! Okay. Mostly retirement assets. Retired, he's receiving a buyout from a business he sold over 5 years ago. He's receiving about $400,000 a year. I feel since I probably won't be in this high a tax bracket again, that I should pull out my Roth now, maybe place into tax-free bonds to take advantage of extraordinary stretch of high tax brackets. Oh, wait a minute. I don't get this. A small Roth has $125,000. So I don't think you can recharacterize a whole Roth. Can't you just do 1 year's contributions? I think so. I don't think you could do this the way you want to do it. I'll tell you what I would do. Keep your money. That's fine. Keep everything as is. However, when your retirement buyout your business sale buyout drops out 2 years from now, then you should start to think about converting the old retirement assets into Roth assets. That's what I think. I don't think you should be thinking about that. I see which way you want to go. I want to go the opposite direction. I want to see in 2 years when your actual tax bracket drops down, whether you should start converting assets. Let me know if I'm missing something there. Here's James. Considering making extra payments to pay down principal on our mortgage. How can I ensure that they apply to principal? Why should you pay down your mortgage, James? I want more information. Send me more information. Is that really the best use of your money? What's the rate? I get what you want to do, pay down principal, not interest. You got to check with your mortgage company, of course, how to physically do that. But I want to know why you want to do that. That would be interesting to learn. Jerome is suddenly in the single filer tax bracket. His wife died in 2016. His income last year, adjusted gross, just under $70,000. His yearly required minimum distribution is about $1,400. My question is, what can I do with my IRA? I assume it's too late to put that in a Roth. Yeah, when you have to take your RMD, you have to take the money. You can't do anything else with it, okay? And then the other piece of this is that if you want to avoid taking that income altogether and you don't want to count it as income, the best thing you can do is a qualified charitable distribution where you send it from the account straight over to a charity. You don't get a charitable contribution deduction if you're an itemizer, but you don't count it as income. I hope that helps. Okay, you're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And during the break, why don't you just go over to the website, jillonmoney.com. Poke around. We got lots of fun things to read, listen, watch. Sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Do it all. It's all there. Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
(401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Very easy. Let's do some emails in this season of taxes. Let's talk about this very excellent question from Tricia. Roth IRA versus 401k, the unfairness of it. I like this. This is more of a general question that others may be wondering about also. Why are people who work for a company allowed to put $18,500 a year into a 401k, but people like me who work for a small company that doesn't offer a retirement plan, we're only allowed to put in $6,500 because $5,500 is the limit, but she's over 50, so she can do the extra $1,000. How is this fair? I'd like to contribute more than the $7,000 for 2019 into a retirement fund, but I can't. And meanwhile, my husband is allowed to put something like $14,000 into his SEP IRA. I don't really understand why these numbers are so different. I agree, it seems patently unfair, but let's go through this a little bit. For 2019, here are the limits. For 2019, you can put $6,000, that's for this year, into an IRA or a Roth IRA. And if you are over the age of 50, you can put in an extra $1,000. So that'll get you to your $7,000, Tricia. Just know that. Okay. Now, the other part of this, the 401k, you have a limit of $19,000 for workers. If you're over the age of 50, you get a catch-up contribution of an extra $6,000, so you can put $25,000. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't seem very fair. But when you talk about your husband, he's probably self-employed, and so he gets to put in he gets to have an account called a Simplified Employee Pension, or a SEP. You might have heard of this. Okay, so this is a little bit more convoluted. For 2019, the SEP limit is 25% of up to $280,000 of compensation. But there's a limit. You can only put $56,000. So sometimes a SEP IRA is also said in the same breath as a KEO, or a profit-sharing plan. So it's $56,000. No catch-up contributions there, okay? And when you make your SEP contribution, you can do it up to the due date of your tax return, including extensions. So there's something to keep in mind. So what are we supposed to do? I think we go to your employer. This is what my suggestion would be, Tricia, and say, hey, look, I know we're a small company, but can't you put in at least a simple IRA? That's usually what happens for small companies. They'll put something in that's an easier plan to manage. And if you had a simple IRA, you get to put away $13,000 in 2019. You get a catch-up of $3,000 if you're over the age of 50. However, your business, the business that puts it in, has to do some matching, but it's not that much. So maybe you could lobby your boss, Trisha, to put in at least a simple IRA. It would make it so much better for you. So the only other thing I could suggest is that if I looked at you and your husband, then why don't we just have him put more into his SEP IRA? And that could kind of help cover you. I don't know. If he can do more, maybe that's the way we should skin the cat. Think about that. And if I've missed something, let me know. It is a bummer. It really is. Okay. Speaking of IRAs, this is from Sheila, who is 65, and she has $30,000 of credit card debt. She's 65. She's paying $1,100 a month on it. However, she's got $700,000 in an IRA. Is it feasible to withdraw money from my IRA to lower my debt? Yes, it's totally feasible, but you got to pay tax on it. So I think that what I would suggest to you, Sheila, is, pay it. I don't know how you got into this debt. I really don't. But let's presume, I don't know how much other money you have, but whatever you're pulling out of that IRA is going to be added to your income. So as you pull money out, be very careful to ensure that you don't necessarily pull so much out, to go into a huge different tax bracket. So I don't know the sources of your income. I'm going to just sort of guess that maybe you fall into that 22% range. It's about $40,000 to $84,000. But yes, I would pull the money out, and that would be kind of where I put it there. I would say pay that debt down. But then, come on, get on it here. You've got to be careful. You have to be looking at what is the best use of your money, and why are you going into debt? I don't know what happened. All right. Oh, this is one of my favorites. This is from Gerald, Weddings for Daughters. Dear Jill, I just read your book. By the way, my book is called The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. So you can order it too. Just go on the website. Okay. Shameless plug. Okay. According to your book, I've made the right decisions. I don't agree on everything, however. Your expertise is very impressive. I probably made some minor mistakes. My wife and myself have used and still use a financial planner. I wanted to let you know that weddings can cause financial pressures. We planned for a lot of things, but not for weddings of my two daughters. We were fortunate that everything worked out, however, at the time, and it did put us in a temporary financial situation. My daughters had nice weddings and did not kill our retirement, and you guys didn't kill each other. That's from Jerry. I get it. The wedding thing is dopey. As someone who has had a bunch of money blown on a wedding, and the union ended up in divorce. They're just the dumbest waste of time and money. But I also am very clear that people should be planning for it because they can't possibly seem to say no to their kids. So, that said, go spend money on the wedding, but actually be very careful not to blow through your budget or your emergency reserve fund, and don't be borrowing against the house. Kids want to have a big wedding and they want you to pay for it. You say, here's how much I can do. It's kind of like the college conversation. The kid wants to have a big wedding, then you can basically say, great, here's how much we can afford. By the way, weddings are just not on the parents of the daughters anymore. Everyone's chipping in. I'm going to chip into Mark's wedding, which may result in ordering a pie for the four of us after the event. Okay, you're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, send us an email. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Hey, during the break, go to the website, jillonmoney.com. Read, listen, watch, sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back.
If you've missed any part of the show or want to check out a past show, go to jillonmoney.com for more great personal finance content.
You're back with Jill on Money. Hey, have I mentioned that I've written a book? Here's the thing. It's sort of like the CFP. Once you get it, you kind of don't ever want to give it up. And now that once I've written this book, I want to sell it every single chance I have because I don't know if I have a second book in me. The first one's so good. I'm only kidding. Come on. It's called The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. 13 ways to right your financial wrongs. You can just go to our website, JillOnMoney.com. You can click on the link that says the book, and you can buy it anywhere you want. Or you can walk into a brick and mortar bookstore in your neighborhood and buy it just from that person or that place. So go ahead and do that. All right, it's time to rock through some of your emails. Mark says he watched a segment with me on the CBS Evening News and wanted to know, is the retirement issue America's next big bubble to burst, leaving the U.S. in a very big recession? No, I don't think so, actually. I think that it's a crappy situation, and that would be, kind of my cautionary tale, but I don't think it's a bubble kind of thing. It's a situation that we're going to have to pay attention to. And I think that it's one of the reasons why I think that many people are going to start to realize that they can't retire when they want. They're going to say, oh, I should have not paid for that kid's college education because I really need more retirement money. But I don't think it's the kind of thing where it's a bubble that bursts. It's probably going to change the demographics of the workplace. That I think. Ron wants to know whether he should be rebalancing. I like rebalancing. He's working with a Wells Fargo advisor. I don't know how you're paying that person, but it may be worth it for you to check out some other ideas for managing money. Maybe an online advisor. There's one really good one at Vanguard, Betterment, Wealthfront, all these things. Okay. William wants to know, he's got a 401k from a second job. They changed ownership. They fired most of the original crew. My primary job is with the county with no 401k. What can I do with the 401k from the second job? Oh, you know what you can do? You can roll that into an IRA rollover account. It's very easy to do. You can do it almost anywhere. And in fact, you could do it at a place like I just mentioned, Vanguard, but there's any of these big investment companies that have low-cost index funds. Sure, why not? So I would look at Vanguard. I'd look at T. Rowe Price. I'd look at Charles Schwab. I would look at TD Ameritrade. They have a good platform. Did I miss any? I think that's it. All of those are good choices. So give that a shot. Okay, Fred is asking about IRAs. Newspaper articles indicate that if one has made an IRA contribution of a tax-deductible and a non-tax-deductible type, one cannot separate them when starting mandatory withdrawals. The IRS requires you to define the percentage in each category, use the total. However, when I started contributing to bank IRA CDs, the amounts were deductible for the first 5 years, and I selected one-year term CDs. The next year, I added to the maturing first CD, and so on for 5 years. Thereafter, my IRA contributions were not deductible. I opened a new CD account for 1 year, added my yearly allowable IRA amount to that one. Each year thereafter, I added the allowable amount. I kept all the accounts separate. Must I provide a total of all IRA accounts each year as mandatory withdrawals approach for me in 2 years? Or can I state that X amount comes from deductible and Y from non-deductible? What do you think about that one, Fred? Hey, Mark, what do you think about that one? I think it's going to be tough. Here's what I would do. I would go to the bank and I'd ask them, because it's really about the way they report versus what you are going to say. So I think you may want to talk to the bank before you start that process. Also think you may want to be very clear with someone. Maybe you might go talk to someone who could potentially help you with this, meaning somebody who is either a tax preparer or a CPA who may know this better than I don't want to mess around. I was getting very, very nervous around these tax issues. You should be talking to someone who's an expert in that. I can ask Ed Slott that question, but I have a feeling that it's going to be hard, and I'm worried also a little bit that it could be an audit flag. But that, it doesn't matter that much. But maybe we got to think about that. Mary bought into a timeshare, which is almost always a bad investment. Mark, did I ever tell you the story about my mother-in-law? My brother-in-law bought a timeshare in Florida. He was really excited about it. And he comes home and goes, we bought this thing in blankety blank. I don't know, Cocoa Beach, Florida. And she looks at him and she literally just in a monotone, timeshares are for suckers. That's what she said. And he was sort of bewildered by that, and I laughed my butt off. Anyway, how do we get out without spending more money? We owe the property taxes. You got to talk to them and try to sell it back, and you basically go to them and you see if you can negotiate. It is not easy. So I would caution you on that. Okay, then what else? That's it. I think we're going to go to a break, and then we're going to come back and we'll finish up the hour, and we will and finish up the show, because the end of this hour is the end of the show, which I've now forgotten about already. Okay, it's gone by so fast. All right. You're listening to Jill on Money, and just shoot us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. We are broadcasting live from the Policy Genius studios. Go check out Policy Genius, policygenius.com. It is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. So easy, by the way. Okay, let's get to some questions here. This is from, let's see, N, just the letter N. I am comment outs on the outside, but genetically inclined to be a worrywart. I read, ponder, but always recognize my lack of real knowledge on money, the market, how to survive on pensions, IRAs. So for me and all like me, with my investments mostly in bonds, how does the, quote, dreaded inverted yield curve impact my investments or my future? Okay, so the answer to that is it depends. That, an inverted yield curve just means that essentially the interest rate that is being paid for shorter term bonds is higher than that of intermediate or longer term bonds. Now, when I wrote that column a while back, the yield curve was looking like it was inverting, but it no longer does look like that. And one of the reasons that people talk about the inverted yield curve is because it is often a potential sign of a recession. Do I think that that's happening? I don't think so. I don't think that that's happening. I don't think you have to really worry about that. Question. Oh, I love these questions. Hey, when's the auto show? We got to get our buddy back to do an auto. We got to do that, the auto episode. Jeffrey says his 3-year lease of his Toyota Highlander is going to expire. Purchase price, $24,000. I don't want to take on a new lease or car loan. Over the summer, I was forced to make unexpected but essential home repairs. I had to use most of my savings to pay for it. I'm thinking of using withdrawal of contribution from my Roth IRA to avoid a car loan or a new lease so I can replenish my reserve fund, begin saving for my next vehicle. Yes, you can withdraw your contributions without penalty, but I wish that you wouldn't. I feel like you're never going to get that money back in there. So what I would say is, can't you get a cheap car loan, a really cheap one? It would be so much better if you could do that and then go from there. All right, that's it. That's the program. If you've got a financial question throughout the week, always feel free to email us. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Check out all of our great content on the website, JillOnMoney.com. And please go out and buy the book so you can stop hearing me talk about it. All right. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next weekend.